a nice crisp day, and the girls and I are headed up along Canal Saint-Martin into the Bastille to go to the vet. And you're coming with. Girls, let's go. Don't want to be late. So this vet office is really unusual in that it's open 7 days a week, 24 hours. So if you have any problems with your pet, this is a great place to go. Say hi to Tara.
So cute.
Bonjour. Hi, I'm here with Dr. Tara Brennan. She just got to meet Rose for the first time, and we're going to talk real quick about having a pet in France. So, Tara, would you just quickly introduce yourself, where you're from, and you're here at Vet in Paris, how long you've been in Paris, and just kind of like give a quick background to the group.
Sure. So I grew up in Buffalo, New York, where afterwards I moved to Los Angeles before I came to Paris. I've been living in Paris for 15 years. 15
years, wow.
Yep. I actually just got my citizenship.
Did you really?
I did 2 years ago. So I'm officially Franco-American. And actually the 15 years that I've been in France, I spent a good portion of them studying veterinary medicine at the Maison Alfort.
Wow, congratulations on all of that, Tara. That's amazing. So, and meanwhile, you're gonna hear French bulldog noises, of course, right? You guys are used to this. Rose is running around here somewhere. So, do you specialize in anything in particular? Do you have extra, like, you've done an echography on Pearl before?
Yep, I've actually did extra studies to specialize in radiology, so x-rays, ultrasound, and soon we'll be getting a scanner here at Vet in Paris, so it'll be another service that we'll be able to provide.
Wow, and speaking of, so Vet in Paris, I was explaining to the group earlier, it's really unusual. I mean, aside from how beautiful the space is and how special the staff is, open 24 hours, 7 days a week, which is crazy. What other services are here, and whether animals do you
So we do dogs and cats, obviously, but we also have 2 veterinarians that specialize in exotic animals. So anything from birds to reptiles, rabbits, how do we call them now? Guinea pigs.
Guinea pigs. What is that in French?
Cochon d'Inde.
Pig.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a little pig. So we have all kinds of different animals that come to the clinic.
Wow, wow. Now, I was explaining to you, Tara, that you know, some of our friends in our group, in our community, are from Canada and Australia, but since we are both from the States, some of the things that I experience that are a little different are things like this, where each girl has a passport. Each one of my dogs has a passport. They get these health books when they first come home. Talk to me a little bit about what these are, and then maybe some other differences between some of the vets and veterinaries in the States versus France.
Yeah, so in France, we do have the system of health booklets, where it's actually all of their health information all in one spot. And the passport is really their passport to travel with. It's their official documents. So having brought my dogs from the States, and anybody who has brought their dogs from the States knows how stressful it can be, because we have to go to the veterinarian in the US the week before we travel,
Yes.
And go through all of the paperwork. And we leave the clinic with a stack of papers like this that we have to send to the FDA and have it approved before they can travel. Whereas in France, this is actually official, and it just needs to be signed by a veterinarian that has a special certification for sanitary purposes. And most veterinarians in all of the clinics have that extra possibility.
Wow.
So all we have to do is certify and verify the paperwork, and everything is okay. So it's a little bit less stressful.
Yeah, it's like an awesome system.
Yeah, and at least everything is in one spot. And we have, for example, in order to travel from the States, Canada, or Australia into France, the dogs need to be vaccinated against rabies. It needs to be done at least 3 weeks before they travel, and it's something that we put in their passport because it's their official document.
Wow.
Then they have other vaccines that we can also put in here, as well as their clinical examination, and it just helps keep a record of all of the different vaccines and stuff that they've had through their life.
Wow. So with something like this, I can travel all around Europe with these dogs without having to worry about it. Wow. And then what about if I wanted to fly back to the States with these girls?
This actually works as well. There are some websites, one that's called AnyVet Voyage, that actually has a list per country of all of the requirements that we need in order to travel with our animals. So it's a really great website that really helps get organized before traveling, and take the necessary steps in advance, because if your dog isn't vaccinated against rabies, it needs to be done at least 3 weeks before they leave.
Okay, perfect. So with this book, what exactly is this book about here, and do I use it all the time? I've been taking it around with me everywhere, but normally what would you do with this book?
So this book is also for the vaccines. It's actually what they get as a puppy before they are microchipped.
Okay.
And the microchip allows them to get the passport. So actually, once they get a passport, they don't necessarily need to keep the health booklet that they have when they're a puppy.
Okay. Yeah, because I've got, in this example with Pearls, her microchip information right here.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Now, let's talk about if, aw, girls. If we were to come, let's say one of the viewers is interested in flying over here to move or to travel, is there a quarantine, and what shots does their dog or cat need?
So there isn't a quarantine coming into France, but they do need a rabies vaccine. That's the most important. Depending on the country that they're coming from, they don't necessarily need the other vaccines,
Okay.
even though it's better to have them
Sure.
before travel, just to make sure that they're protected. But the only one that really is important and that counts is the rabies vaccine.
Okay.
They also need to be identified with the microchip.
Okay.
And they need to check on their country's website or on the website that I mentioned earlier to see if there's anything else that they need. But if we're coming from the States, usually it's rabies, microchip, a deworming pill, flea and tick medication, and then an official stamp by the agricultural department.
Yeah, okay. And so is there any sort of customs process that you're aware of when they come in?
So when I arrived in France from the States, the first time I came with my dogs, I was really stressed with all of the paperwork and everything, and they didn't check anything.
Okay, this is what I've been hearing too. So, yeah, it's pretty casual.
Yeah, it's pretty casual. Whereas when I went back to the States with my dog, they take you in a separate room before you pass customs, just to examine your dog, look over the paperwork. It took 5 minutes, but they were more thorough than when I arrived here.
Yeah, so not a scary process. And then you and I were talking, and there's two things that I found to be really interesting, because again, these girls were born here in France, and I think there was 2 points that you and I were chatting about. One, that you can, even if you're just staying for like 2 or 3 months, you can register your dog's microchip as a backup safety plan. And then also about their stomach problems possibly. So let's talk about those 2 things.
Yeah, so if you're planning on staying in France or in Europe for a certain amount of time, even if you're planning on eventually going back to the States, you can register your animal's microchip. This way, if they were ever lost, it would help find you if needed be.
So I think what I'm going to do is completely separate, show the group here how to register on the ICAD website so that they know how to do that, because it's all online, correct?
It's all online.
Okay, so not too scary.
No.
And then you had mentioned though that sometimes pets get a little upset stomach when they arrive here from elsewhere. Talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, there's different germs that exist in Paris or in France in general that they didn't necessarily meet while they were in the States or in Canada or Australia. So it can upset their stomach, and it can take a couple of months before they really get used to their new setting and their new environment. So it's not something to be worried about, because I know that it stresses a lot of people out when they first arrive and they see their dog that was perfectly healthy, but are starting to experience stomach issues once they move here. They eventually adapt. It's just there's new germs that their body isn't used to, sometimes new food, the pressure, the temperature, the weather can be different as well.
The long flight.
The long flight.
It's just like humans.
It's just like humans. So it can take them a little while to get used to their new surrounding, and it's really nothing to be too worried about. Just contact your vet when you arrive and see how things are going. There's stuff that we can add, like probiotics, that can help reinforce their digestive system. There's a little fine tuning that we can do to help them be comfortable while they're here.
Love that, thank you. The girls are just running around Tara's office, exploring everything, looking for treats and toys. So if there's somebody that's just visiting Paris and their pet gets ill, Tara, can they come here? How does that work for somebody that isn't a resident of France? Are they allowed to bring their pet to a vet like yours?
Yeah, of course. All they have to do is call and make an appointment with the front desk. Sometimes our schedule fills up pretty quick, but we always have time for emergencies. We always find the time. And as we said earlier, our clinic is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Holidays, we're always open, and we're always open for emergencies. So there's no problem. You can definitely give us a call. We'll be happy to see you.
And so that's fantastic. A huge relief for anybody that's either coming here to visit, perhaps they're moving here somewhere else in France, but maybe staying over in Paris to start, and that's huge. So thank you. I'm sure that's creating a lot of confidence for some of the people that are thinking about making this transition. And what about costs? How are the vet costs here in France? Perhaps again using our similar backgrounds in the versus the U.S. And what would it cost to come here with your animal?
So compared to the US, you'll be pleasantly surprised. In France, it costs a lot less to go to your vet. A regular consultation is 54 euros. An emergency is 95. And then all of the extra exams that we may need to do, depending on how your animal is, it costs a lot less in the US. I know that x-rays here, it's 90 euros, and in the States, it's at least 150, 200, 250. It can climb pretty high pretty quick. I think we don't need as much insurance here on a monthly basis. And the salaries too in France aren't as high as they are in the US, so there's a lower overhead cost, which makes it a bit more affordable actually to have a pet in France.
That's what I found. And speaking of insurance though, because I have French Bulldogs, they're notorious for having health issues. I do have Pearl on insurance. I still need to get Rose as she's eating stuff off the ground, finding things to chew on. Insurance, is that possible here to get insurance for your dogs, and is that something that you would recommend?
Yeah, we work with a couple different insurance companies for the dogs. It all depends on the type of dog that you have, of course. French Bulldogs, I think it's always a good idea to have health insurance for them. And actually, the earlier you get insurance for them, the better, yes. Because there's a delay where they're not covered. So that's always a good idea if you don't have a French Bulldog. It depends. The insurance, on the scale of a dog's entire life, it probably ends up costing you about the same as if you were paying out of pocket each time. So it all depends on kind of how you manage your finances and also the type of dog that you have, because definitely I think with French Bulldogs it's a great idea to have it. There's some other more sensitive breeds as well, Boston Terriers for example as well, Australian Shepherds, Cavaliers. They're dogs that have a tendency to be a little bit more fragile than others, so I think having the insurance for them is also a good idea.
Good. Perfect. I just wanted to thank Tara one more time for spending a big part of her day. We took a lot out of her schedule to be here and help the girls, like, what point? And and share with you so that you can confidently come over with your little love pet and know that they'll be taken care of so well here, especially with Tara. Thank you. Ah, le jambon. Oh, merci. Thank you.